Sometimes the classics are great, but every now and then when it comes to food, I feel like I want to try something new. And when it comes to pies, that can be quite the challenge, especially when people tend to have their favorites and they never truly want to be adventurous. But this easy and delicious brown sugar walnut pie recipe breaks all of those barriers. It's familiar enough, like pecan pie, to make the Thanksgiving and Christmas menu, but different enough to spark some curiosity on your taste buds. I think it might just be your new favorite go-to pie for the holiday season. And the first thing we're going to start with is the crust. Now, instead of a traditional pie crust, I decided I wanted to go with a graham cracker crust. So I'm going to take 1 stick of butter, and I took 2 packages of graham crackers, and I'm going to add this to my baking dish. I'm just going to melt that butter in the microwave very quickly. And this crust is simple. I'm going to take my pie dish, I'm going to pour the graham cracker crumbs into the pie dish, and I'm going to add some brown sugar, some vanilla extract, and then that melted butter. That is all the ingredients that you're going to need for a delicious, crumbly, and perfect graham cracker crust. And I'm going to use my fingers, and I'm going to incorporate all of that until it's like wet sand. And then I'm going to use my hands and my fingers to apply some pressure, and I'm going to push it down into my pie dish until it forms the perfect crust on the bottom and up the sides. This graham cracker crust in this recipe is just another way that I decided to veer away from the traditional and try to make something completely new and different. And now we're going to head to our filling. My first reason for changing the main star of the traditional pecan pie recipe to walnuts is for cost, because pecans are incredibly expensive and walnuts are relatively cheaper. And personally, I'm a huge fan of walnuts. And since I'm going for something different, I really wanted to play heavily on the holiday season with a different type of pie that incorporated nuts. It just seems that we're so comfortable with pecans that we really don't go for any other types of nuts in our pies, or at least my family doesn't. And so I wanted to go off in that arena. So maybe in the future, I'll also come up with some more pie recipes that include nuts that you aren't really familiar with or that you wouldn't think to put in a pie. Now right here I'm crushing these walnuts, and I actually took an apple slicer. I thought it might be a good idea, and it really was. It worked pretty well. Then I just take all of those crushed and chopped up walnut pieces, and I'm going to lay them directly into my graham cracker crust. And then I'm going to make the ooey gooey caramel-like filling for our delicious pie. So the first thing I'm going to need is another stick of melted butter. So again, I'm going to place that in a microwave safe bowl and just get that melted while I whisk my other ingredients in a medium mixing bowl. I really like my blue mixing bowl here. So I'm going to crack 2 eggs in here. And I'm going to add some brown sugar. I'm going to add all-purpose flour, some heavy whipping cream, some vanilla extract, and a dash of salt. And then when I've got all of that incorporated, I'm going to add that stick of melted butter and then whisk it again until it is fully combined. So I don't know if you took note or noticed that there is absolutely no corn syrup in this filling mixture, which is very traditional for pecan pie. So you might be wondering, how is this going to stay together? But let me just tell you that it is perfect. It's delicious. It sets up very well, and it has almost like a caramel texture and flavor. And it is different than the pecan pie, but that's the point. And you, of course, could take this recipe and you could swap out a traditional crust instead of that graham cracker crust, and it would be perfectly fine. I just want it to be different all the way around. So I'm going to pour all of my filling directly over the walnuts, and I'm going to shake it a little bit to make sure that everything is covered and then we're going to put it into a 325-degree oven for 35 to 40 minutes. I like to watch it because I don't want the graham cracker crust to get baked too long because it becomes hard. So about 35 minutes is perfect. And then when we pull it out, we're going to let it set and we're going to let it cool for at least an hour so that when you slice it, it is the right consistency. When it comes to the storage of this pie, if you have any leftover, which I think if you're making for a crowd or a holiday, it's not going to last more than a day. It is just that delicious. But if you do have some leftover, you can keep it at room temperature for about 2 days, and then you can pop it in the fridge and keep it fresh for about 5. But I dare you to try to keep it that long. I just don't think it's going to last. I use my baking time to take the opportunity to clean up the kitchen. It always makes sense to clean while you cook so you don't have a disaster at the end of it and you don't dread it the next time. And that's what I'm doing here. And then I heard my alarm go off, or my timer rather, and it let me know that the pie is ready to take out of the oven. And I'm so excited to let you guys see it. She is beautiful. She is delicious. This is the brown sugar walnut pie recipe that you have to make. You have to.